Religion has been the cornerstone of human civilization for millennia, shaping societies, cultures, and individuals in ways both seen and unseen. From the dawn of humanity, people have looked to the sky, the earth, and the unknown in search of meaning, purpose, and answers to life's deepest mysteries. They created myths, rituals, and deities to make sense of the world around them, using these stories to explain natural phenomena and forge a sense of order, morality, and community. Over time, these early beliefs transformed into organized systems of faith. Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, Hinduism, Judaism, each of these world religions developed its own teachings, sacred texts, and traditions, profoundly influencing the course of history and civilization. Despite their differences, they all share common threads. They provide moral guidance, build communities, and offer frameworks for understanding the metaphysical and moral dimensions of life. But here's a thought: what if religion had never existed? What would our world look like today without these spiritual narratives that have shaped so much of our existence? Religion as the foundation of morality. For countless generations, religion has served as a moral compass, offering a clear framework for distinguishing right from wrong. It has guided human behavior, established codes of justice, and defined what it means to live virtuously. But imagine a world where no such religious codes existed. How would society address issues of ethics, virtue, and human rights? In the absence of religion, society would likely turn to secular moral foundations. Philosophy, humanism, and reason could take center stage in shaping our collective sense of right and wrong. Ethics would be debated, dissected, and refined by philosophers and thinkers, perhaps resulting in a more rational and logical understanding of human behavior. Yet, even with the rise of secular thought, it's impossible to ignore the profound role religion plays in grounding the moral values of billions. For many, religion provides not just moral guidelines, but a sense of purpose, direction, and meaning in life. Without it, countless people could feel adrift in a sea of uncertainty, struggling to define their moral compass. Without religion, many might find themselves spiritually lost. Sure, some would forge their own path, defining personal codes of conduct and ethical standards. But for others, especially those who have been raised in deeply religious cultures, the absence of their faith could lead to a deep sense of disorientation. This loss could be so profound that it may lead some to engage in destructive, harmful behaviors that undermine the fabric of society. Wars without religion, would they still occur? Religion has long been a powerful driver of conflict, often fueling wars and violence throughout history. From the Crusades and the European wars of religion to more modern examples like the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and sectarian violence in the Middle East, religious differences have provided both the justification and the passion for countless disputes. These wars have shaped nations, cost millions of lives, and left scars that persist across generations. But what if religion had never existed? Would the world still experience wars? The answer isn't as simple as we might hope. While it's tempting to believe that removing religious fervor would lead to fewer conflicts, wars are rarely driven by a single cause. Political, economic, and territorial disputes, as well as ideological clashes, have sparked just as many conflicts as religious differences. Throughout history, many devastating wars have been waged for reasons far beyond faith over land, power, and resources. In a world without religion, we could certainly imagine that some of the most violent religious wars might never have occurred. However, the core issues driving conflict, such as competition for resources, territorial expansion, and the lust for power, would likely remain. Other forms of ideological, cultural, and political tensions would fill the vacuum left by religious divisions, potentially leading to new conflicts. Human history shows us that conflict is a complex phenomenon, and the absence of religion alone wouldn't necessarily bring about a peaceful world. As we discussed in our article, World Without Wars and Weapons, conflict is an inherent part of human nature. It's not just a feature of the past, it's present even in 2023. While it's hopeful to imagine a future where wars are nothing more than relics of history, that vision remains, for now, a distant dream. So, let's take a step back and explore how religion has impacted other facets of our world both positively and negatively. Cultural evolution, the art of faith. Religion has had a profound impact on the evolution of culture, shaping art, architecture, literature, and philosophy. Iconic masterpieces such as Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel ceiling, the Taj Mahal, and Islamic calligraphy have left an indelible mark on global heritage. These works of art were often born out of religious devotion, and in many ways, religion served as a muse for some of humanity's greatest creative achievements. But what would culture look like without religion? Would the arts still flourish? Would we see a more secular, diversified cultural landscape, one driven by humanism, science, and a celebration of the human condition? It's possible. The absence of religious constraints could unleash a new wave of creativity, with artists drawing inspiration from the beauty of the natural world and the complexities of human existence. We might witness an explosion of innovation, focusing more on individual expression and universal themes. However, there's a downside to this hypothetical world. Without religion, we would likely miss out on some of the world's most awe-inspiring structures, the grand cathedrals, temples, and mosques that have stood for centuries as symbols of faith and craftsmanship. These architectural marvels are not just religious symbols, they are masterpieces of human ingenuity and beauty, some of the most stunning buildings ever created. The world would be a far less visually rich place without them. Social structures and rituals, life without religion. Religion has deeply influenced the way human societies are organized, from the creation of social structures to the rituals that mark the milestones of life. Marriage, for example, often has roots in religious traditions, and communal gatherings, be they for worship, festivals, or rites of passage, serve as essential ways for people to connect and share in collective experiences. But what would happen in a world without religion? What would bind communities together, and how would we celebrate significant life events? In this imagined world, new secular ceremonies and social structures would likely emerge. Communities could still form around shared values, cultural traditions, and human interconnectedness, offering a sense of belonging without the need for religious affiliation. We already see this happening in some non-religious communities, where people come together to celebrate life's milestones in meaningful ways, even without invoking religious rituals. In fact, many people today are already living without religion and have created their own social structures and traditions. Sociologist Phil Zuckerman estimates that there are between 500 to 750 million atheists globally, people who don't believe in a deity but still thrive in their communities without the need for religious guidance or ritual. This raises an interesting point: could humanity flourish without religion? While some people might find it easier to thrive in a secular world, others would struggle. The absence of religion could leave many without a sense of purpose, meaning, or a framework for understanding life's deeper questions. The quest for meaning: what's left when religion is gone? For thousands of years, religion has been humanity's answer to life's most profound questions. It has provided explanations for the mysteries of existence, the nature of the universe, and our place in it. But what happens when those answers are no longer tied to religious beliefs? In a world without religion, individuals would likely turn to other sources for meaning. Science, philosophy, and personal exploration could take on a central role in the search for purpose. People might immerse themselves in the pursuit of knowledge, seeking to understand existence through reason, logic, and the scientific method. In fact, this process is already happening in many parts of the world, with science and philosophy offering alternative pathways to understanding the universe. But the real question remains: what would society look like today if religion had never existed? Would we be better off, or worse? Would humanity be more united, or would we fall apart under the weight of existential uncertainty? It's a question that no one can answer definitively. The absence of religion presents a complex, hypothetical scenario with both potential benefits and challenges. But one thing is certain, while religion has provided answers and structure for billions of people throughout history, the search for meaning is a deeply personal journey. Whether through religion, philosophy, science, or personal exploration, every individual must find their own way to navigate the mysteries of existence. Scientific advancement, a world without religion. Religion and science have always had a complicated relationship, sometimes collaborating and sometimes clashing. But what would happen to scientific progress in a world without religion? Would scientific discovery accelerate, freed from the constraints of religious dogma, or would we lose some of the motivation that religious quests for understanding have provided throughout history? A world without religion could potentially see an even greater emphasis on scientific inquiry. Without religious constraints, science might progress unhindered, driven solely by the pursuit of knowledge and the practical applications of that knowledge. Reason and empirical evidence could dominate as humanity's guiding principles, fueling technological advancements and reshaping society. However, let's be honest, science is already a dominant force in shaping the modern world. Some might even argue that science has taken on characteristics of religion, particularly in the rise of scientism, the excessive belief in the power of scientific knowledge and techniques. Could science, in its quest for universal answers, become its own kind of faith? This philosophical question points to the complexity of the relationship between human belief systems and the drive for progress. The individual versus the collective. Religion has traditionally emphasized the importance of community, collective identity, and shared purpose. In a world without religion, would societies become more individualistic, or would new forms of community and belonging emerge to fill the void left by religious institutions? Without religious frameworks to shape social bonds, communities could form around shared cultural values, interests, and goals. This might lead to a more diverse and dynamic social landscape, with individuals choosing affiliations based on common values rather than religious beliefs. As societies evolve, new ways of forming communities and fostering collective identities could emerge, potentially creating a more fluid and individualized understanding of belonging. The human spiritual quest, seeking fulfillment without religion. For millennia, religion has been the cornerstone of the human quest for spiritual fulfillment. But in a world without religious doctrines and rituals, how would individuals pursue their spiritual journeys? Would we see a rise in alternative spiritual practices, or would spirituality evolve into something entirely new? In the absence of traditional religious structures, humanity might witness the rise of diverse spiritual practices. People could turn to mindfulness, meditation, or even psychedelic experiences as ways to explore and enhance their sense of self. Others might find spiritual transcendence through deep connections with nature or a more holistic view of the universe. The search for meaning could become more personal, driven by self-discovery, personal growth, and the desire for inner peace. Will religion disappear in the future? The question of whether religion will disappear in the future is a complex and controversial one. While we can imagine a world without religion, the reality is that religion has been an enduring part of human history, constantly adapting and evolving to meet the needs of societies and individuals. Some argue that as societies become more secular and rational, religion's influence will continue to wane. Others contend that religion remains deeply rooted in the human experience, offering answers to questions that science and philosophy cannot fully address. Whether religion will ever truly disappear is uncertain, but its future remains a subject of constant reflection and debate, highlighting the ongoing interplay between faith, reason, and the human condition. Looking at statistics, we do see a growing trend of atheism and agnosticism, particularly in more secular societies. According to sociologists Ariela Kisar and Joachim Navarro Rivera, there are approximately 450 to 700 million people worldwide who identify as atheists or agnostics, making up around 7% of the global population. Notably, China leads this demographic, with 200 million people identifying as non-religious. Given these trends, could we conclude that religion might cease to exist in the distant future? Perhaps in 1,000 years, or even by the year 2100. While we can't say for sure, the trend is clear: religion's influence is waning in many parts of the world, and it's likely that this trend will continue for the foreseeable future. As time marches on, humanity might eventually turn to entirely new systems of belief. Perhaps, in the far future, people will place their faith in something radically different, maybe in artificial intelligence or some other emerging force. The future is uncertain, but one thing is clear: the evolution of belief systems is a journey that's far from over. Only time will reveal where humanity's search for meaning will lead.